got it?
This is a meeting of the Finance Committee of Ascension Parish on Monday, February 6, 2012. Councilman Melanson, will you please lead us in the invocation?
Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity tonight to come together and do the business of this parish, Lord. I ask that you would provide a hedge of protection over us tonight and guide us in our discussion and decisions. And Lord, we just ask again that you would have your hand upon Miss Barbara Bourgeois Shake Snyder, and as she goes through this time, and just guide her and protect her as she passes from this life to the next. And Lord, I ask just a peace and an understanding among the Shake Snyder family. We ask your hand upon them as they go through this difficult time as a family, and just help them to get through it. And we ask all these things. We thank you in the mighty name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All members are present tonight, with the exception of Councilman Shake Snyder. There are no chair additions. I would like to remind the public, if you would like to speak to an agenda item, please come forward, sign in with the secretary, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. We'll proceed while that is going on to general business. Item number 5, the monthly contracts report by Ms. Kimlin Bailey Lomas.
Good evening. I'm here to present the contract report for the month of December 2011 and January 2012. The report has been provided to you by our council secretary. The contracts that you see listed are those that was entered by the parish in December and January. I'll give you a moment to look over them. There's a brief explanation as to what the contracts are for, the term, and the amount.
Gentlemen, does anyone have any questions with regard to these contracts?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other, I'll offer a motion to approve the monthly contract.
Having a motion and a second, are there any discussion or opposition? Motion passes. Sorry, Mr. President, I didn't mean to get ahead of you.
Just want to let you know that every month at the finance meeting, we give you a copy of every contract that we enter into. Every one of them is open, as I said, to any discussion. So, you know, everything's there for you to look at, and everything's there for you to question. So anytime that you have any questions or anything about a contract, please call us, speak up at the meeting, and we'll be glad to identify what they are and who they're with and how they were selected.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
For further general business in item 5.1, it has come to my attention that there are many nonprofit organizations who are funded through the parish, and I've spent the last 2 years working for a nonprofit organization. It is quite helpful to me when I need funds, if I am aware of the criterion and the process, the parameters by which those funds can be achieved through various organizations that make those kinds of grants. So I would like to suggest that Martha Collins with the Grant Department assist us in setting up a process and parameters, perhaps even including a joint committee to review and select the recipients consistent with the grant's intent in order to expedite this process and make sure that those who desire these kinds of grants from the parish get those and then follow the parameters. Does anybody have any questions or anything they would like to add? Yes, Mr. Jones.
Ms. Terry, yes, I agree with you 100% with that right there. Only question is, and that just, I know it's just a discussion right now, is that currently right now we have some nonprofit or organization in our budget, or in this process, are they going to be like starting all over or applying for grants, or are we going to try to keep them in that budget, Terry, and if they need additional funds?
My thought is, and certainly this is open for discussion, is that everyone would begin the grant process. I think we'll need a timeline developed in order to be able to have this prepared for the next budget. I'm certainly not suggesting that we interfere in any way with what's going on for this budget. But as we look at July, when we begin the budgeting process, I would like to see us then incorporate this with any nonprofits who are requesting funds from the parish.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Lowell?
Just a comment. I think that's a great idea. I think that would hold a lot of value. I know we all get pulled on from various organizations, all of which are needed and all of which are very good, but it would be helpful to develop some objective criteria like that to determine return on investment for our allocations.
Thank you, Mr. Lohr. I will tell you from a nonprofit's perspective, it is helpful when you know what you need to accomplish and what parameters have been set. And I think we have an outstanding grants department that can help us to create this criterion and also to award those grants and then to be sure that they are being handled appropriately afterward. So I look forward to further discussion with Ms. Martha Sue Collins, and any of you gentlemen who would like to participate in that, I would certainly invite you to. Thank you. Item 6, the River Road African American Museum and Gallery requesting funds in the amount of $15,000 for True Friends Hall. I will defer to Councilman Joseph to speak on this issue. We have a speaker first, excuse me. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Chairman?
Yeah.
That is the chairman of the African American Director Board, and he was going to speak on that behalf, requesting the funds.
Wonderful,
Mr.
thank
Darrell
you.
Grissom.
I'm
Nice to meet you,
Gissel.
sir.
I'm on the board of the River Road African American Museum in Donaldsonville. I don't know how familiar you all are with the museum, but the museum is working on a new museum project, which is the Rosenwald School, which is in Donaldsonville. In addition to the Rosenwald building, which is old school again, that will become the new museum, excuse me, there is an adjacent building known as a True Friends Benevolent Society Hall, built in 1886. The museum was given the building probably back in 2004. 2006, U.S. Marshals seized the building, saying the donation was given improperly with ill-gotten gains. They suddenly realized that that was incorrect. It took the museum years to get the building back. We had to buy the building back from the U.S. Marshals to pay them for their maintenance of the building. While it was in their care, the roof was blown off in Hurricane Gustav. So the museum is actually asking the parish for $15,000 to help put a new roof on the building. Total cost of the roof is estimated at $19,000. The museum has $4,000 to spend, and the $15,000 would help us actually waterproof the building to prevent any further damage. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any questions, gentlemen?
I'll make the motion that we go and incorporate endeavor agreement with the African American Museum for the do the roof.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? Certainly.
Is this a reimbursement? We've done this before. They spent the money and we reimbursed. Is that what we're talking about?
If we can do
All the work's done and bills are submitted, we reimburse them.
well, we can do two things, or we can go through the parish to do the contract and let the service go through them. Can we do that? Because at the current time, I don't think, do we have the fund, do they have the funds in that amount?
Right. I think the museum right now only has about $4,000 allocated for the roof. So if the parish could allocate the money, or if we sign a contract and turn the rest of our funds over to the parish, whatever's best.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I'm curious, the expert maintenance services that has the invoice in our packets for the approximately $19,000, were there other bids obtained?
We actually went after other bids, and this is the only one that we actually got that was reasonable. Best bid, they were insured. A lot of the other bidders wouldn't even look at the project because of the age of the building. Tin roof that's actually on wooden slats. A lot of the slats have been destroyed by the storm. So we feel most comfortable with this contract.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Councilman Oliver Joseph and a second by Councilman Travis Turner. One more discussion?
Yeah, just a quick question, Madam Chair. Do we have, are these folks on our normal contribution?
Yes, sir.
But this contribution is basically being requested outside of that for a specific purpose?
Yes, sir. For the roof only,
For the roof only?
yes. Of the building, ceiling of the building, preserving that building.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Any objections? Mr. Parish President?
O'Neill, we'll get together and figure the best way to approach this and make sure that the funding is in hand if that's your wishes.
Any objections, gentlemen? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to item 7, the insurance renewal. We will call on Mr. Harry Robert to enlighten us.
Thank you, Councilwoman and Councilman. Appreciate the time. I want to welcome all you newcomers and to the commission. Good luck. In simplifying, the process, I just have a little outline of some of the steps that we go through on an annual basis and try to secure the best possible program at the best price for the parish. The table of contents will show you, number one, some of the companies we solicited, the renewal rate, the policy information and notes with some questions that some of the councilmen invariably will ask, and then a history of how these rates compare with some of the rates, in the past. You see on page 3 some of the companies that we solicited for renewal program. Some of them quoted and some of them just declined for various reasons. Some of them just got out of the business of insuring municipalities. Some of them stopped doing business in Louisiana. Some of them stopped writing any type of wind damage. But we were fortunate enough to where we had actually 15 reputable companies give us some quotes for our comparison and renewal purposes. Page 4, you see a lot of times, some of the constables want to know, well, who's insured? That just gives you a little synopsis. probably about the broadest definition that you could probably use as far as who is the named insured in the parish. So I just wrote that down, and then the property is insured in what you call a replacement cost type of policy. The special form, which is the broadest form that you could possibly have, which insures all type of losses except a few of them that are excluded. And then, of course, the co-insurance is waived. The next page, page 5, will show you exactly what the renewal premium is for each classification. Okay. Automobile was 57.5. General liability is 99. Public officials is 45. Employee benefits is 202. Employee-related practices 15.4. And then the terrorism for the GL as well as the property. We at this point decided that after meeting with the people in the finance department and the parish president, that terrorism had escalated to a point to where it wasn't feasible to carry it. You know, it would be about $25,000 this year. In the past years, it was considerably cheaper than that. So just because of associations and things that happens in a catastrophic type situation, you know, we thought possibly it wouldn't necessarily be continuing to carry that. Property is $345,000, and Lamar Dixon is $86,000. Workman's compensation naturally is on an audited type basis, just depends on the payroll and any type of arrangement that you may have with workers that are not really your workers, but you may rent workers, so to speak. That's $55,000. Mobile equipment is $36,000. Crime is $2,400. Boiler machinery is $5,800. The total due about $709,000. The next page, just to kind of make those figures kind of make some sense, I'll normally show you exactly what the premiums were in all the different categories for 4, 5, 6 previous years. You know. So you notice in the automobile that there's a slight increase from 56 to 57, and that's indicative, you know, of just probably increase in maybe a vehicle, increase in something like that that causes it. General liability was from 95 to 99. General liability has to do with the hazards and all the risks that the parish has to be covered for. Anything from mowing the various highways, you know, to any type of operation that's going on in any one of the facilities. Public officials' liability is just about a $100 increase. Employee benefits, a few dollars. Employee-related practices, $400 increase. Crime was actually the same. Boiler and machinery actually went down from 66 to 58. And the biggest increase is the property, which is insuring both Lamar Dixon and all the rest of the property for the parish. Workman's compensation this year as compared to last year was $11,000 more, because last year and the year before we had omitted an aggregate type protection for the parish. And we decided that it was the best interest for the price that we got it this year to continue carrying that aspect of it. And that limits the losses that you can occur in workman's compensation. So for the increase in premium, you know, everybody that we met with thought that probably it was feasible to do so. At the bottom of that, you see all the related costs, you know, which is the agent and the TPA fee. The TPA fee is Associated Resources, Gary Lee, and myself, and that'll break down at the bottom. You'll see how those things are distributed. So much for general liability work and for workman's compensation work. The other change that we had with workman's compensation, we had been carrying years back. We started off with a $100,000 self-insured retention, and then gradually started going up. And last year, and probably the preceding 4 or 5 years, it was $300,000. Never came close to reaching that. So this year we just discussed it and thought that we'd increase the self-insured retention to $400,000 because there was a sizable savings. And even though we never really met it, we might as well just go ahead and take that jump, because we feel like probably our controls and everything that we have, the probability of us getting that is not too probable. So we feel like it's a good investment just to increase the deductible and to save the money. If anybody has any questions now, later, whatever, I'll be happy to answer them. You know, if you think that probably it's a little bit too much to digest, you can give me a call, come out of office. I'll meet y'all any other time to try to explain anything, you know, more thorough for you. We have almost another month before the policy actually expires March 1st. Invariably, we start this process, you know, sometimes in November, but insurance companies just don't respond that quick. So we may be getting some type of information that may be better than the program, or some aspect of the program that I'm offering you now. So I would like to probably get permission to go ahead and renew it as is, unless there's something that better that comes in, and I'll okay that with the finance and parish president.
I'll make that
And then
motion.
move with that.
I have a motion by Mr. Cluott,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Lambert. Any discussion?
Yeah, real quick.
Discussion.
Go ahead, Doc.
Please.
Madam Chairman, may I ask the Speaker, just for a point of clarity, for
Sure.
Lamar Dixon then, it would not be covered against a terrorist attack?
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. And of course, I guess this might be an appropriate time after hearing the discussion on flood. I'd be happy to give y'all some quotes on flood insurance if y'all want me to do that.
I got a
Thank
quick-
you, appreciate it.
Madam
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair. Harry, hey, real quick, and this may be for the administration also. Based on terrorism insurance, and I know it's nationwide right now.
Right.
It's getting really exuberant, and to the point of how can you actually cover?
Terrorism. The pricing, that's what you're getting at, the pricing on it was between $23,000 and $25,000, you know, for terrorism, you know. And years back, when it started off, I guess it was probably, you know, half of that or less, and each year it just looked like it's getting worse and worse and worse. So I guess with the condition and the position that municipalities and public entities are in, it's just not feasible for you to make that step and carry it, you know. That was the consensus of opinion. I mean, if another opinion is derived, that we can always add it or insure it. That's what they want to do. I wish I had that crystal ball.
I guess it'd be a harder question to ask, depending on the type of terrorism act. I know it's way out there in left field. Is
Yeah.
how much would you have to be liable for, and whether your
Yeah.
insurance would cover it anyway, you know?
Well, it's going to, you know, if you have it on your GL policy, which is general liability policy, it's going to cover you for the limits of your policy, you see. And then if you have it on your property, it's going to cover you for the value of the piece of property that you have it on. That's what it was, you know. It just comes in and it presents itself as another peril. You know, like fire, theft, windstorm, hail, explosion, smoke, riot, vandalism, any one of those perils, you know, would be considered the same as terrorism if you should have a terrorist act, something of that nature. What is a terrorist act? That could change any day.
Well, basically, the first quotes we got was about $800,000 for everything. We had basically budgeted, I think, $650,000. So I asked Harry and him to go back and look and see where we could possibly do some cost savings, and upping the deductible and cutting back on some of this other stuff. Now we've cut it down to about $100,000 increase rather than the $200,000. But if you want to restore any of that stuff, you're more than welcome. But we just felt like in the talks and the negotiations that we could live with this and save $100,000.
And, Mr. President, there's a possibility between now and first, that we may have another company that we approach, to one of these companies, even come back with a better price than what we have now, too. Okay?
Gentlemen, thank you very,
Thank
very
you,
much.
appreciate it. Sure.
We have a motion by Councilman Cluott, a second by Councilman Lambert. Any objections?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Moving on to item 8, Quad Area Community Action Agency Report.
Hello, everybody. My name is Wallace Sibley. I am the Executive Director for Quad Area. Many of you know my mother, Miss Winnie Sibley, Santamon. So I'm not actually from here, but half of my blood is from here. All my relatives are from here. And so this was her favorite parish. We serve 7 parishes, and we've been operating, helping underprivileged folks since the early 70s. You know, we are a wide range of services, and I believe this parish, like some of the other parishes, have supported us yearly, which helps a lot. You know, we are one of those nonprofits that perform a wide range of services. And I think in this parish, I could give you the exact figures on my email, but over 6,400 families this year in this parish. We serve from weatherization to homeless veterans to light bills, rental assistance, crisis, just, you know, a lot of different things that we do. And this is my first time to be invited here. I want to thank everybody for inviting me. I didn't really understand why, because I've never done it before. But I'm glad to come. Ms. Shirley Wagaspack back here is on my board. She can attest to the fact of our excellent audits and our transparency for all our financial stuff. So I don't know if any other report that you want, but I do have some stuff with me, but I don't want to, I know it's been a long night, so.
Any questions? Mr. President?
I just want to thank Mr. Sibley. His mother well, Miss Winnie Sibley, and they ken to all the Singletaries in Randy's district, and basically my neighbors across the street. But the Quad area has done a lot for the people of Ascension Parish in the number of years that it's been operating here, and they've always done an excellent job. And I don't know how long Shirley's been on that board, but she's been on it quite a while. And is Walter Leffridge still on it?
Walter Leffridge is on our board.
The other
yes.
board member, and I actually served on it for a couple of years, and it was a gratifying service. So you don't get paid for it, but it's a good community service. But Wallace, thank you. And
thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for the service that you provide to our community.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. God bless you.
Any discussion here, gentlemen? Let's move on to item number 9, a resolution, Louisiana Audit Compliance Questionnaire. Ms. Gwen LeBlanc.
Good evening, members of the Finance Committee. You have before you a packet that has a resolution on the top, and behind it is the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire that is mandated by state law that every parish or government fill out before their audit is performed, and you're required by law to adopt this resolution. The questionnaire basically states that we are complying with all laws governing the operations of government, and that we are also disclosing from our financial statements that they are in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles. And it also states that we're complying with all the state laws that involve the operations of parish government, such as the Public Bid Law, the Code of Ethics Law, the Local Government Budget Act, the accounting, auditing, and financial reporting laws, asset management laws, fiscal agency and cash management laws, debt restriction laws, revenue and expenditure restriction laws, road system administration law, the laws governing drainage districts, fire districts, and other special districts created by the governing authority, and also our home rule charter mandates. So we would recommend that you bring this to the full council, this resolution adopting same.
Motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Resolution is adopted. Moving on to item number 10, 2011 Budget Amendment number 4, Ms. Dawn Caballero.
Good evening. You have before you Budget Amendment number 4, which I'll read as follows. An ordinance to amend the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2011 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension, adopted by the Ascension Parish Council on the 29th day of November 2010. Section 1. The Ascension Parish Council hereby ordains that the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2011 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension is hereby amended, approved, and appropriated as follows. The operating budget for the general fund, expenditures transfer out to the Community Development Block Grant Fund, $70,000. Transfer out CDBG Construction Fund, $70,000. For the FEMA Repetitive Loss Reduction Acquisitions Elevations Fund, revenues, grant for the flood mitigation, a decrease of $458,500. Expenditures, grant flood mitigation, a decrease of $454,500. Fire District Number 1 sinking fund, expenditures for debt service, the interest expenditure code increase for $15,000. Community Development Block Grant, revenues. The LRA CDBG grant, a decrease of $119,100. Transfer in from the general fund, $70,000. Expenditures administration, $500. CDBG Sorrento Community Center, negative $27,500. CDBG Lemon Center improvements, negative $9,500. CDBG Donaldsonville DPW building, negative $13,000. CDBG Sorrento sewer improvements, increase of $12,000. CDBG Donaldsonville sewer improvements, negative $19,500. The CDBG construction fund, revenues for the LRA CDBG grant, a decrease of $248,500. Transfer in from the general fund, $70,000. Expenditures, CDBG purchase Louisiana Fairgrounds, decrease of $68,500. CDBG West Ascension Public Works Building, decrease of $60,000. CDBG Parish Sewers Construction, decrease of $59,000. Do you have any questions?
Madam Chair, I'll offer a motion to approve this ordinance and to be placed on the next council agenda.
So you're the second person? Having a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Having a motion and a second, are there any objections? Hearing none, we'll place this on the agenda, the upcoming agenda, for further vote. Item number 11, 2012 Budget Amendment Number 1. Dawn?
You have before you Budget Amendment Number 1, which reads as follows. An ordinance to amend the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2012 operating capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension adopted by the Ascension Parish Council on the 17th day of November 2011. Section 1. The Ascension Parish Council hereby ordains that the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2012 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension is hereby amended, approved, and appropriated as follows. The operating budget, Lamar Dixon, revenues for grants, an increase of $100,000. Expenditures, acquisitions, vehicle, and equipment, an increase of $86,000. Fire District Number 3. The items that remain on this ordinance were at the request of the Fire District Number 3 board, and you have attached their minutes where they passed a motion for us to combine their two operating funds, Fund 78 with Fund 77. So what you see before you is all of the revenues and expenditures are allocated from the budget to Fund 77. So Fund 78 will not have any expenditures or revenues in their budget, but they will all be recorded in Fund 77.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President. Where's that thing in the package?
Tommy?
The
Dempsey has a
expenditures at Lamar Dixon for the new grandstands that once, when BP was there, we tore down the existing cement one. Now we have portable ones that go in. And basically for the livestock shows, this is what most of that expenditure is, just to clarify. So if you went to the livestock show this weekend, you saw it was overpacked. It was packed, so we're ordering some more bleachers to go in.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Moore.
Second.
Second by Councilman Lambert. Any objections? The motion is adopted. Moving on to item number 12, the renewal of the intergovernmental agreement between the Parish of Ascension, City of Gonzales, and Fire District Number 1 for fire protection by the City of Gonzales to certain areas outside of its municipal limits in the amount of $120,000. And I presume, O'Neill, that you're going to
Yes.
address this one.
In 2005, the parish, Fire District Number 1, and the city entered into an agreement, intergovernmental agreement to provide services outside of the city limits. The price then was $120,000. It's been renewed on a yearly basis, and what's before you is the renewal for that intergovernmental agreement.
What this does for the new council members is the city fire department actually covers areas outside of the municipality in order to cover the city liability-wise for their equipment that's owned by the city coming out into the parish is what this money is for. They can't do it. Law prohibits them from doing it for free. They have to charge for it, so that's what it comes out to. And I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnson and a second by Councilman Lawson.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
Benny might know this too. How far out do they actually go, Benny, from?
It varies depending on what part of the parish you're talking about. They do go out, Highway 74 towards Coontrap, out towards Abear Steel, and one portion of it.
It's not a designated mileage, it's just.
It's designated on a map as far as exactly how much mileage it is. It's not that far out. It kind of depends on where you go. They'll go out towards the airport for Highway 44, for an example, in that general vicinity. They go out Corner View towards Geismar. I'm not exactly sure how far out that way they go anymore. And then it's basically all the way around the city that they go out and cover.
Good.
Councilman Moore.
So, Benny, forgive me for quizzing you again, but the amount of funding for $120,000 is determined by the amount of service calls that they make over the last year or so, do you know?
When they first put it installed, it was basically a percentage of the calls that they covered within the relationship of the number of calls they ran overall. So many were in the city limits themselves and so many were outside. Based on a percentage of what they ran outside is what the dollar amount was based on.
Thank you.
Having a motion by Councilman Johnson and a second by Councilman Lawson. Any objections? Motion carries. Moving along, item 13, the sales and use tax report. Ms. Gwen LeBlanc.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You have before you a sales and use tax summary report. This is the last report for sales tax collections for the year 2011. It's based on a collection month, so it represents November sales. And you can see for the far left, the three taxing districts the parish has. East Ascension Drainage has a half-cent. Our sales tax district number 1 is the 1 cent, and our sales tax district number 2 is the half-cent. That's divided 1/3 for fire protection services and emergency response, and also 2/3 for road construction. The center column is the comparison from the December collections from 2010 to 2011, and also the year-to-date right under it. So you can see that, and the percent of difference at the far right-hand side of the middle column shows you the percent of difference from December collections in 11 compared to 10, 16.09%, and for the year, 5.9% increase. And in the 1 cent sales tax for the month, 27.09% and 6.05% for the year. And our half-cent sales tax for the December collections was 28.22%, and for year-to-date, it was up 6.29%. And then the last columns on the right-hand side is compared to our budget, and you can see our 2011 budget, the first column, and then the 2011 collections, and then what's remaining. And what's remaining is not a negative, it's a positive. And the percent, you can see that the far right-hand column, that in drainage we collected 19.47% over our budget, and the 1%, 24.41%, and in the half-cent sales tax, 23.48% over budget. So that's good news. We take a conservative approach to our budget when it comes to sales taxes because that's strictly economy-driven. So with the uncertainty and post-recessionary period, we've been extremely cautious. Now, our 1 cent sales tax is already committed through our budget ordinance. If there's any surplus after we fund the general fund and road and bridge maintenance fund and the recreation fund and our debt service and a small portion, $65,000 annual, to the families in need of services, after we fund all that and maintain an adequate fund balance, then it will be split 50% to road construction and 50% to utilities in 11. And on page, well, I numbered page 1. These are different charts than those of you who have been here are used to seeing, but I thought it might be informative to the new ones, being it's the end of the year, and we'll revert back to the original charts next month. But the first page after the title page is the 1% sales tax district, and you can see a history of it from 05 to completing 2011, and if you look at the totals, it just gives you a good comparison of how our sales taxes have grown. And of course, our highest year was 2008, so we're right there at it, just a few 100,000 maybe difference. And then on page 2, that's number 2, is our sales tax district number 2, and it's the same information. If you go down the total, you can see what has been collected in that fund for the past years since 05. And then on page 3, this is our drainage district's half-cent sales tax, and the same information. If you follow the total at the bottom, you can see how their taxes also have grown. And then on page 4, this is just for 2011, and it's all the taxing districts in our parish, starting with the school board, Ascension Drainage, City of Donsonville, West Ascension Hospital District, City of Gonzales, our 1 cent sales tax, our half-cent sales tax, and then the town of Sorrento, and then the sheriff also has a half-cent sales tax. And then the total collected sales taxes collected for local taxes for the year 2011 is $105,695,909. So that'll give you some information on, how much each taxing district in our parish collects. And then the very last page is just the sales tax rate for the parish. And you can see all the taxing districts on the left, and then you could see if you would purchase something in the city, what taxes you would pay, Sorrento, rural East Ascension, the City of Donsonville, and rural West Ascension. All in all, wherever you purchase anything in the parish, you pay 4.5% local taxes, and of course 4% state taxes, so it's 8.5% across the board. So I thought I'd just give that, especially for the new ones, just for informational purposes, just to let you know exactly where we stand.
Thank you, Gwen,
if
for
you have
that
any
very thorough
questions,
report.
I'll be glad
Helps
to.
us that are new to this budgeting process.
It'll get better.
Any discussion, gentlemen? Questions?
And if, as usual, if any of you think of anything you want to know or have any questions, just be sure to contact us, and we'll be glad to accommodate you any way we can with any information that you may want.
Thank you. Then we'll move along. Item 14, the Revenue and Expenditure Report. Amanda Barat.
Good evening. Before you are the financial reports for the month of December 2011. These reports are not finalized at this time. We're still making adjustments and putting in accruals for 2011 still. On page 1, your total revenues are at 95.27% at 100% of the year. The items that are highlighted in green reflect the funds that are under the budget by 5% or more. And on page 4 of the report, there's an explanation for these funds. The major reason for most of these codes are due to 2011 accruals are not reflected on the books at this time, and we're currently in the process of closing out, which will probably be finalized by the end of this month. On page 2 of the report are your expenditures. They're at 105.67% at 100% of the year. The items highlighted in green reflect the funds that are over the budget by 5% or more. And on page 5 of the report, there's an explanation for those funds. On page 3 are charts that compare the year-to-date revenues and expenditures for operating, which is your yellow bar, to the capital, which is the blue bar, to your budget, which is the green bar. And the last page of the report is a listing of all checks issued in the month of December that were over $100,000, and the total of those checks are $3,606,119.82. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Ms. Gwynn, is there any review of this that you believe would be helpful?
I'm sorry, Terry, I beg your pardon?
Is there any review of these documents that you believe would be helpful to the new members?
The reason why she's saying that 5%, that's state law. If you go over your expenditures by 5%, you have to report it and then amend your budget as such. We are based on accrual basis of accounting, which means that all the invoices that we receive up until we close, if they're for services rendered in December, we accrue them back to December, so we'll get the right expenses in the right year as well as the revenues. Now, revenues could go over 5%. I mean, that's good news, but if they go under, also our charter provides that we report that and then make the necessary adjustments. So
Thank you.
you'll get another report when we close out, it'll be a closeout report, and it'll show, everything will be in the right year by then.
Thank you. Any questions, gentlemen? Hearing none, we'll move along. Number 15, bid items. Ms. Joan Shivers.
On January 4th, 2012, the Purchasing Department received one bid for bridge material. After review, the Purchasing Department and DPW recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Bayou Forest Products, and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this material.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any objections? Motion passes. Item B, limestone.
On January 4th, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 3 bids for limestone grade 89. After review, the Purchasing Department and DPW recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Pine Bluff Sand and Gravel, and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this material.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, any objection? So moved. Item C, limestone grade 610.
On January 4th, 2012, the Purchasing Department received 5 bids for limestone grade 610. After review, the Purchasing Department and Department of Public Works recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Vulcan Materials, and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this material.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Having a motion and a second, any objection? So moved.
On January 4th, 2012, the purchasing department received 3 bids for oil and grease. After review, the purchasing department and fleet department recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Central Oil of Baton Rouge, and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this material.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Having a motion and a second, any objections? So moved. Item E, River Silt.
On January 4th, 2012, the purchasing department received 4 bids for river silt. After review, the purchasing department and Department of Public Works recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from South Louisiana Field Materials, and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this material.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, any objections? So moved. Item F, shavings, cottonwood and white pine.
On January 4th, 2012, the purchasing department received 1 bid for shavings. After review, the purchasing department and Department of Public Works recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from S&S Farms, and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this material.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, any objection? So moved.
Discussion. Would
Apologize.
it be just one bid, that's $4.25 per bag, it's a good price.
Excellent.
I'll just
Thank
share
you.
that with you.
Appreciate it very much. Item G, washed gravel.
On January 4th, 2012, the purchasing department received 4 bids for washed gravel. After review, the purchasing department and Department of Public Works recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Southern Aggregates LLC, and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this material.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, any objections or discussion? No objection. So moved. Item 16, request for proposals. A, janitorial service at Lamar Dixon Expo Center.
On January 10th, 2012, the purchasing department received 2 proposals for janitorial services for the Lamar Dixon Expo Center. The proposals were received from Jana King of Baton Rouge and Expert Maintenance Cleaning. After review, the Professional Selection Committee recommends accepting the proposals submitted by Jana King of Baton Rouge, and to authorize the parish president to begin contract negotiations for this service.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion and a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? No objections? Hearing none? So moved. All right, item 17.
Motion adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Motion, meeting is adjourned. Guess I get to do